Hello. It's the new moon in Cancer tomorrow. I don't know whether I address the fact that I haven't made a video, because I don't know if it's so relevant. If you do care, I'm sorry, but I'm back. I don't have many promises though, but the new moon in Cancer is tomorrow, and naturally gets me to reflect on cancerian kind of things in my life, and something's been going on in my brain for a couple of weeks that I've been like spinning on, but I find myself getting stuck at like a point of frustration, and I wanted to try to like explore it to potentially come to a conclusion, because I think seeing myself talk through something can kind of force this sense of conclusion and like perspective that I think I need, whereas when I'm writing sometimes I can just go around in circles a bit. And this is like, for me, it's particularly close to home issue because it's it's somewhere and it's a part of me. It's something that I also see reflected in like relationships that I've had in the past. And also I think what's prompted it to be more like circulating in my head recently was that I've seen it like then reflected in like wider media that I've consumed. How do I want my hair? I can't decide. Anyway, yeah, and so it's the idea that like empathy has some kind of tie to morality, or like emotions have a tie to morality. And you could take this so many ways. Like you could take this in the whole like psychopaths don't have empathy and that's why they're bad people. But even that is like a shallow statement. Because we all know like psychopaths are not inherently bad people. There's so many layers and there's so much context to everything. And I feel like every time I say one thing, there's 1,000 things I could say about the thing. But what has been stewing in my head recently is along the lines of the moral like badge of honor that is given to people who display or live this like experience of empathy without borders. Like it's the self-sacrificing mother, it's the martyr, and it's particularly like a feminine archetype. It's, I think, the moral high ground that for some reason, well, the moral high ground that's been given to people who self-sacrifice out of this narrative of feeling so much for another person that they can put aside their own feelings, that, you know, they can serve someone else or a greater whole. And while there's like a time and a place for that, I think it's also something like a lot of this feels like a little bit like duh for me to say, so I feel very hesitant in speaking to it because it just feels like a bit like old news. But it's still inside of me and it wants to come out. Sorry, I'm like giving myself so many caveats and so many just like hesitancies because I'm not used to talking. I feel like I got bad at it. But yeah, like this ideal that's given to people who can give themselves in the place of others, or feel for others in place of themselves. And it's this, there is a saying, and I wish I could knew the end of it, but it's like empathy without boundaries is something, and it's, I can't remember the word that's at the end of it, but it's leading to the fact that empathy without boundaries actually isn't true empathy. It's self-destruction, essentially. And I guess I thought more of the world was like on that train, because I think I'm in a secluded, not a secluded community, but I'm in like my isolated little bubble of the world. And in the people that I keep close to me, I see that reflected. But then like I had a couple months ago, I had like some interactions with people who I don't see very often. And then that idea was challenged by them, and I was like, oh, okay, but maybe it's just like that person, and like that person is on their own journey, and it's okay. Everyone does things at different times, and you know, everyone's learning. We're all on the same path. And then I had some like 2 podcasts within 2 days just say like some things that pricked my ears up about, one was just one of the podcast hosts complimenting the other person for being so empathetic. But like the story that I had heard them display in my head, I was like, oh, like she's struggling with her boundaries. And then her co-host was like, oh, you're just so empathetic and like, and I was like, hold on. Why are we reacting like this? Like, why are we encouraging this? Why are we encouraging her, like, displacing her own emotions and herself? Like, what? And that was, like, international, which is, like, it sounds silly to be like, what? Because, like, of course. But I guess it popped my bubble. So, yeah, this ideal of just, like, this apparent, ever-expansive... And, like, it is, it's a feminine wound, I'll say, but, like, it's imposed on women. And, yeah, this ideal of, like, the all-encompassing, ever-forgiving, continually empathizing and, like, holier-than-thou woman archetype. That maybe not to its, like, perfect T is still idealized, but I know part of me has to, like, fight being that all the time. And I've had to be somebody that learns boundaries and self-respect and emotional responsibility and emotional intelligence. Because that's the other thing, is that, like, like, we're in an age at the moment where, like, there is, like, there's a bigger space for so many more conversations, and, like, information is getting exchanged at, like, the highest rate ever. And this is also maybe an underpinning part of this thing that's spinning in my head, is that, like, not all of the information is, like, actually helpful. Like, some of it continues to limit us, which is that the idea of emotional intelligence, I think, is also getting conflated with, like, empathy, or people that are experiencing, like, an empathic life, or, like, people that are sponges. Like, I think all of these ideas are getting conflated, and, like, the actual power of empathy is no longer the thing that we're focusing on. It's this enmeshment, this sponge-like quality to people, that the fact that if you go out into the world, you just take on the emotions of so many people, and then you have to go home and isolate yourself because that's the only way you can feel yourself. It's like, it sounds like a martyr complex. Like, it sounds like this, like, woe is me, like, I can't do anything about it, it's just the way that I am. Like, and it kind of feeds this victim complex a little bit sometimes. Like, I have a lot of fears around this kind of narrative. As you can see, like, I'm speaking into it like it's a narrative. It's the narrative of who I have been. It's the narrative of the people that have hurt me. It's this underside that I attribute to a lot of, like, a cancerian narrative that is, like, the path to emotional intelligence and emotional awareness and emotional responsibility, that muddles a lot of these ideas, that if you feel more, then you must be more emotionally intelligent inherently. Like, if you're somebody that just feels for another person, that has a heart for another person, that means you are a better person, a more trustworthy person, a good person, like an emotionally intelligent person, an emotionally safe person. And I know from firsthand experience, both being the giver and the receiver of that, it's not true. And yeah, it's been a very personal experience, I think, for me. And I've let it be that, and if I've seen other people in that, I've let that be their personal journey, unless that's something I commiserate with my friends over. Like, I know that I've probably spoken about it before, but it's just kind of coming again in this big wave of, like, whoosh, like, no. And a part of me starts to get really, why I wanted to, like, talk about it. Girl, you're testing limits. Girl. Okay, that's fine. Sorry, new rabbit. A part of me starts to get really firm. Like, a part of me starts to get very Capricornian in nature, and very just feels this fear arise inside of me, and just goes to criticize, and it goes to judge that experience and that narrative. Partly because I can see the parts of me that I'm not proud of. the parts of me that have gotten to be less than who I am in the face of the people who I love. And then the part of me who's also been wounded by that very same face, like in other people. And because I am still working on integrating that as like an acceptance thing and like having compassion towards those experiences, a part of me gets that really cold, judgmental rejection response. And I'm trying to work my way, and like I'm trying to integrate it in a way that I can accept it and move forward. But then like I flip-flop, because there's also another part of me that gets so critical of the entire experience and then gets really despondent at how much misinformation I internalized as somebody, as a part of just like growing up in society. And then therefore like how much I know the capacity, like how much capacity for misinformation and like misunderstanding there must be for other people. And then I see like triple or like double fold, like I see the information that's online, I then see just like the general discourse that's like in podcasts around the world, and I see how people are talking about emotion, and then it just stresses me out. And I start to get really panicked about the state of consciousness and like awareness of society. Because like I was saying, like we're coming into like, I feel like people are like feeding into like new age shit. People are feeding into like the archetypal divine feminine, divine masculine, and that's not to say male female, but it's this like higher consciousness of like the spirits of the world and like whatever, and you know, yin and yang and balance and all that shit. Like there's so many different kinds of conversation. That's just like what can come off the top of my head. But there's another part of me that can see like the ideals of the feminine like coming up, like with the rise of feminism and like female empowerment and all these movements that are to push the light of what it is to have like a feminine experience in the world, to like give power back to that because of how disempowered it has been in the past in comparison to the power that has been given to the masculine experience. And while that is like great, with that also comes these like really messy grounds, like where we're trying to figure out like what that looks like in a manageable and... Are you okay? Go. Like what it actually looks like to be grounded. Because if we have only experienced this like feminine experience, or like these feminine traits and qualities and values in like a shunned, shamed, disempowered way, how do we know what it looks like in a measured and balanced way, and not when it is like in like unstable and like swinging to the other opposite end of the polarity? And that's where I think this like moral empathy thing kind of sits, is that like there's this ideal or idea that to feel is virtuous in some way. And that it feels kind of infantilizing somewhat. Like it feels so wrong to have that be like a badge of honor that you feel, and that you feel too much, and that it's this like endearing quality that we should all like revere. And again, it feels like a duh to talk about this, because like I thought we were all on the same page about it, but apparently we're not, because there's like there's an experience behind that space that somebody can hold for every other person except themselves. There's the fact that you can't be properly integrated in society, the fact that there's probably some issues with self-regulation, like there's probably some wounds around self-abandonment, there's probably some wounds around self-worth and whether or not you're actually a utility for the people around you or a person. Like there's so much darkness that sits within that projection that is still apparently not spoken about enough. And that darkness that sits within that ideal can lead people to do really fucked up things. And like, I know, because I've been there. I've been like, I see the wounding because I've been the wounding. Like, and I just wonder, like, what it takes to get there. Like, I wonder what it takes to bypass this. No, that's the wrong language. Bypass. I wonder what it takes to grow through this Maya that's still like kind of clinging on. Because if you talk to anyone in like the health field, if you talk to anyone who works in psychology or psychiatry or counseling or even just like inpatient work or even just a mother or a grandmother or a teacher or a guide or like an outdoor recreation guide, like if you talk to anyone who works with people, anyone who works in a field that requires you to have like a relationship with another person, they will tell you the importance of emotional boundaries and being able to contain your emotions and being able to acknowledge what you're feeling and process what you're feeling in order to be there for another person and be there for yourself. And I'm also wondering where the message is getting lost. But I also know that that's probably like not much of that's not within my control. I start to reflect really deeply on like this whole emotional intelligence journey. Because it's a very deep part of like it shapes who I am, and it often outlines different chapters of my life, and it signifies, I think, the best and the worst parts about myself. And this moon is coming up, and I'm also, I guess I'm like kind of hoping and praying that there is some kind of breakthrough that comes with this moon, but I'm also kind of wondering like why I want to talk about it. I'm still kind of trying to find my point, which is if you are someone that romanticizes this ideal, I wish you knew, either as a person who's going through it or a person who idolizes it in others, I wish you knew like how disempowering it is to be the person that feels for everyone else but themselves. Like, to be somebody that doesn't have the capacity to regulate their own emotions while they're with people. If you can't feel yourself around your friends, like, who are you? If you need to separate yourself from society entirely in order to recover, how are you? And I'm saying that to like everyone, but I'm mostly also saying that to myself. Like, I'm the person on this journey. I'm the person in this place. I'm the person with these woundings. And it's this recognition that I'm not the only one. And I'd like to work out of this. And potentially there's this feeling that comes up that's like something akin to like offense. Like, since this is something that I'm working on, there's this, I guess, like personalization when I see people idolizing that behavior. where it's, and then people taking on that idealism as this like bright, like light part of them. And that's not to say, like, again, like, I'm not saying that you can't be somebody that feels, because like on the other side of this coin, we are human beings, we are supposed to feel for one another. I'm not trying to demonize empathy, because empathy, true empathy, is beautiful, but it's this boundless enmeshment, martyrism that I'm not idealizing. And when I do see that idealized, and when I do see people take that on as a part of their identity, a part of myself starts to get, like offended, because it's this thing that I've struggled with. And I don't know how I was just about to say, like, I don't know what I can do about that. And I guess the answer is nothing, because I have to keep on kind of coming back to myself and understanding that the only person I can control is me, and that the only impact I can have is on myself and on my immediate surroundings. And I think this is the kind of clarity I was looking for, this kind of mediation point. This drawback to where within myself I can ground to, and what wisdom within myself I can ground into. Because like, going back to what I was saying, there's a part of me that, because I'm on this journey of like trying to be like emotionally intelligent and trying to take responsibility for myself and learning from my own woundings of like self-abandonment and being raised in a household where emotions were shunned, that when you're trying to reparent yourself, containing emotion can feel like suppression, and like not taking on other people's feelings in your environment can feel selfish. They're really hard. They're hard. It's a hard thing to like go against your nature and to reform your nature, and it's triggering in that like minute sense. Like, not, I guess it's not triggering, it's just, I feel offended. I feel offended by this emblematic reverie that still exists of this like facet of being a person that has been so innately harmful to myself and others in my life. And so I get this feeling when I see people who claim they're empaths and like who go through life just being like, oh, I feel for so many people, and they still aren't clued on to the fact that that's not helping them. Like, they'll say that, and then they'll complain about how draining it is. They'll complain about the fact that they don't feel like they have space, or that people come up to them far too often, and they'll complain that they feel misunderstood or not really seen in relationships. And those people get under my skin, and I don't know how to help them, and that makes me feel inadequate. So I'm still in this journey. Like, I'm not coming here with answers. I'm coming here with like an expression of like, this is something that's coming up for me, and it's been coming up with me for like years. And I'm tussling with it because of this new moon. And I think what I'm tussling with is just trying to remind myself to come back to what I am and who I am, and knowing that my impact is all that I have in myself. And I really hope, like, I just hope that one day we can all get to a place where we can hold ourselves. Because emotions and like feelings and all that, like that feminine experience, like, and again, I've given this caveat in like every single video I talk about, but like, feminine does not mean female. It does not mean woman. It means yin. That's what I'm referring to. It's this necessity in my life and in what I believe is other people's lives. That's the perspective that I have. And it's such a beautiful source. Like it is like, it's a counterpart to source. Like it's the undefined, and its beauty is in being undefined, but where it is held. And I fear that like we're swinging the other side, where it has then been kind of in the past, in recent history, it has been contained and suppressed and shunned, that we're now going the other way, that it's now undefined and loose. And when you get like that, when you have this untamed, chaotic thing guiding you, like I don't personally believe that I am best led by my emotions. And that's something that I think I fear myself being, and it's what I fear in others the most. And that kind of empath, boundaryless empathy is a bit of a symptom of that state. And I really wrestle with that. I think there's a lot of fear that sits inside of me around that, because of all the hurt that's in my life around that. And I know I'm just expressing myself a lot. I'm not giving a lot of answers, but this moon is really highlighting that for me. And I'm learning more and more that like, I'm learning more and more what emotions really are there for. And they're there, yes, like as I think like as like general mainstream emotional rhetoric is to be felt and to be processed. And like this lady that she's definitely a girl, she's like my age, I think. I'd call her a girl. There's this reader on YouTube, Eso Tarot. She's one of the few that I like still actually check back into, because she's always really fun. She's an Aries and she has really beautiful energy, in the sense that she's meticulous and detail oriented, but she's so playful with her delivery and her optimism. And there's a lot of clarity in her words as well. She often says, emotions are data. And that can sometimes sound very, I don't know, like maybe a little antithetical to what emotions really are, but it's one thing to hear it and to be like, yes, I understand, but I'm really understanding it now, that you are meant to immerse yourself in them, but they are meant to be held. They're not meant to be controlled. You can't control them, but they are meant to be held. They're meant to be contained in order for you to get the value from them. You're meant to be the body, the person that can hold your experience, which is going to be rich with feeling, with waves of emotion, and they are teachers. They are not like guides. They are not like moral. They're not values. They shouldn't decide what you do. They may inform your decision. They may inform how you feel about something. They may give you a perspective and give you the context that you can then analyze. Like, this is also coming from a Virgo moon. Like, if I have a reaction to somebody, I'm not going to take my reaction as that's how I feel about that person and that's all there is to it. It's, I'm reacting to that person. What's the greater situation? Like my friend at work, like my friend is at a new job and there are people there. She's been there for like just over a month. And there are people there that are like, that don't like her and that are like already kind of like grating on her. And she hasn't done anything. Like they've known her for like just over a month, just under 2 months. And I know she's a hard worker. She's probably just giving it her best shot. She's probably asking questions, like she's new to the area. Like, it's in those situations where, like, if I was one of those people and I, for all of a sudden, for whatever reason, just didn't like this person who I've been working with for, and they don't work with each other every day, like these people. So, like, you've consecutively known this girl for maybe 72 hours at best, and you already don't like her. It's like, you look at those situations and you go, okay, these are my feelings, these are the emotions that I'm having. What do I actually learn from myself about that? That's the kind of experience and relationship we can have with our emotions, is that we have them, but we are not them. Like, one of my healers that I had a few years ago explained them the best way to me, and like, it didn't fully hit me until like a year ago, that like, you are the sand and the emotions of the beach. They may shape you, that you may witness and be pulled into the tides, but at the end of the day, you are the sand, you are the beach. The waves will always come and go. You may be changed by them, you may experience their flow, but you are two separate things, and the waves will come and they will go. And that is like sinking deeper, deeper, deeper into me the more that I think about it. And I think there's also a distance that I think I need to keep with myself in terms of like this whole healing thing about this journey, and that it is only my responsibility for myself, and that I can't make it go any faster for another person that I see in my life. I can't make it go faster in the world. And ultimately, that's not my job and it's not my responsibility, and I'm going to be okay. I'm better off for it. I don't know if I've necessarily like said anything in this video. I guess I'm just talking about what this moon is making me reflect on. And it's bringing up a lot of fear, which is expected. It's getting some 12th house stuff, and I think there's a lot of stuff in Cancer that's like squaring some stuff in Aries, and that's like a lot of 12th house and 8th house stuff for me. So I think understandably it's bringing out a lot of fear. So I don't know. It's also my first video back in a while, so hi. I wonder if you're thinking about similar things. I know that it's going to be okay. I know that I need to drop my responsibility. I know what I lack in control as myself, and I'm comfortable and okay with that. I'm not asking for advice, but I'm well aware that people still have it within them, and I am open to what people have to say, because I think that's also important. Also, some people comment. You guys comment really insightful things, and I love it. So, and I'm not asking for it. And I say that I'm just not asking, so there's not like an obligation. But if you have insights or perspectives, especially on this stuff, I want to be open. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing me out, even though it's like very convoluted, as it always is. I don't know. I'm gonna get back into it because I want to. So, yeah. Bye.